It feels good to be back on the bike. Man, it's been 4 days since I've last ridden this beautiful little Amazon bike, and man, I have missed it. I had a really good time at the bachelor party in New Hampshire. Went out on the boat on the lake, did some kayaking, played some golf, had some good times, drank quite a bit, and now we're here grabbing some lunch and recovering. And man, have I missed my motorcycle. The whole time before going to sleep, I was on my laptop just like watching moto vlogs and motorcycle YouTube videos. I was worried how this thing would start up, and it started up right away after sitting for 4 days. It's the longest it's sat since I bought it. Just had to pull the choke on the carb, thing fired up, warmed up for a few minutes, and was ready to go. So I'm very happy with that. But it has been a few days, so I don't want to push it too hard, but it is a beautiful day to ride. Couldn't ask for a better day. Yeah, I get some Five Guys burgers and fries. I haven't had that in ages. And by ages, I probably mean like 6 months, let's be honest. Like I said, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff about motorcycles, like I always do when I get really into things. And man, I've always known about the Isle of TT, or the Isle of Man TT, whatever, however it's said, which is the big motorcycle race around the island. I've watched some videos of the onboards, different angles, when they're actually like racing up close to each other. And now that I've ridden a motorcycle, because before, 2 months ago, I literally never rode a motorcycle. Now that I've actually ridden a motorcycle, I was having heart palpitations trying to watch this shit. These guys are going like 180 inches away from each other at points. And the way that the race is, it's all a time trial, and they start staggered. Every 10 seconds they start. But some guys are just massively faster than other people, and the track is like 30 something miles long. So they're gonna catch up if they're faster. And then things get very spicy. Tragically, on average, there's like multiple people that die every single year, which is just insane. Like on one side of things, you have MotoGP, where things are relatively safe and the skill level is through the roof and everybody's like super tight with their ability. And then you have the Isle of Man, which has the same type of demands, but with absolutely drastic consequences. Like, this isn't a race course where if you like low side at 80 miles an hour, you'll be fine. There's buildings, the streets are very, very tight. There's curbs at the end of most of the streets. You slide, you fall, it's almost certainly a critical injury. It is absolutely insane. And then when it gets out of the cities, you can go flying off the cliffs and stuff. It's just nuts. I feel like it takes a special type of person. I forgot the name of the documentary, but there's really good documentaries out on it right now. And I was watching one that followed a father and his son, and the father used to race it and his son was now racing it. And man, the way they describe racing it, particularly the son, is the same way that drug addicts describe doing really hard drugs, where it's like they can't even really give you a reason why they do it, if they're being honest, like with the explanation in terms of how it makes them feel. It's just something that they need more of immediately. But it makes sense. The absolute thrill of flying through city streets or town streets like that are super narrow, pushing the bike to its absolute limit. And you could argue that the type of bikes that they're riding, like the big 1000ccs, oh thanks buddy, the big 1000ccs are perfect for that track. I call it a track, but it's really just streets, because there's not like too many super tight turns where you have to go really slow. So you can really push the bike to its limit, and you're gonna be leaning the thing over at like 180 miles an hour constantly, which those 1000cc bikes excel at, big super bikes. But also that means you got your life in your hands the entire race. Like, you're never really going at speeds that'll be safe to crash in. Not that any speed is safe for a crash, but there comes a point where the danger level is significantly increased when you're going 180 miles an hour. I think you're in that point. How am I getting air in my face? It's not clicked down. My helmet is letting air in. I don't really know how, because everything's down. Might have to tighten the face shield. Or put my chin mount or chin strap back on. I took it off because it allows more airflow into the helmet, but yeah, that is where it's coming from. It's coming from the bottom. I have like the little mouthpiece thing is closed in front of the chin, but there's also this little piece of fabric you can put underneath your chin, which makes the helmet way warmer. I figured I was just gonna leave it in for winter, but whenever I take it out, there's just too much wind in the helmet at that point. I was looking for 6th gear there, and I could not find it. Down a little bit. But I gotta be careful watching so many Isle of Man videos and watching all these people cutting up the highway, because like I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I never want to do that, but part of me at the same time does want to do it a little bit. You know, you see it looks absolutely exhilarating. They are just cooking it through those streets. That must be the greatest feeling in the world. The risk though, the risk is just so high. Bogging down a little bit in the first quarter of the throttle. Maybe my idle's too high. Yeah, it is actually too high. I don't want to stop at the stop sign for it. I hate when people just stop at the stop sign and expect you to just know that they're not gonna go, so you wait for them and then they're trying to wave you through and you're like, but you were here forever. So just do it while I'm riding. There it is. Had to get the bike fully warmed up to idle correctly. You guys are probably getting tired of seeing these same streets all the time, if you haven't noticed already. I just get into a habit and I do it over and over again. But I am currently getting a list together of a bunch of fun twisty roads that are within like an hour or two of me, and I'm gonna go see those, probably just for like the pure sound videos at first. I'm gonna go nice and slow, kind of get an understanding of how the roads work and their curves and understand them, so that when I start hitting the twisties, or if I upgrade a bike and start hitting the twisties with a nicer bike, I'll be prepared and kind of understand the layout. Because the worst thing you can do, I've learned from sim racing, is hop into a new track that you don't know and think you know it and ride it like a track that you would know. There's just too many variables. There could be a side street that is very typical for people to pull up close on that you need to know is going to be there, even though it doesn't look like it's going to be there, or it might not look like a problem. But if you've spent enough time, or a few, even just like a few trips through the area, get you a good understanding of the danger points. And I think that's super valuable on a motorcycle, is spend time to even drive in your car in the areas that you're going to be driving your motorcycle a lot, so that you're really familiar with it. One of the things I wanted to do when I first got a motorcycle was just start exploring. And a motorcycle is great for exploring, but you have to do it within your limits. And typically you always want to ride within your limits, but when it is time to challenge yourself, because at times you need to challenge yourself to push your skill forward, you want to do it in a situation where you're going to be safe. And that shit, you know what's happening and you know what's going on. Keep the variables to a minimum. Third gear has so much engine braking. On roads like this, with the double lines, you still gotta be careful for people overtaking, because all it takes is one person going really slow for the guy behind him to get very impatient and totally not be able to see a motorcycle. If there's two cars close behind or close to each other on a street like this, the car behind the first car is likely not going to be able to see you on your motorcycle if you're on this inside lane. They might be able to see you if you're in the middle lane, but everybody knows the middle lane is going to be the sketchiest part and you probably don't want to spend too much time there. This outside lane, they will probably see you because it'll give enough of like an angle for them to see in, but it doesn't give you much of a escape route, right? It all depends on your situation though, because sometimes being on the outside lane is going to give you more of an escape route, but it makes it closer to a lot of people potentially coming out of driveways or popping out of doors. So if there's cars parked on the street, or if it's an area like this has a ton of driveways, then you don't want to be really close to the side all the time, because somebody could just come out and then not see you from there. So you got to balance things. You want to be very, very visible. When I'm riding my car around, I feel like I never see motorcycles, and you have to remember that. I actively look for motorcycles when I'm in my car and I still don't see them. It's just they literally are invisible to people on the road because they don't represent what you typically see on the road, which is a big moving object that you can predict very easily. You know what I mean? You see a car, you see it going in direction, you know that it can stop within a certain distance and it's not going to be turning too hard, most likely, or it's going to spin out, or something very unlikely would happen. You can predict what people do in cars, and you can predict all the bad things that they do wrong, not just the positive things. On bikes, it can be a little bit unpredictable. You know, if you're in a car and you see a bike behind you, he might be all the way on the right lane. You might be thinking that he's going to turn right, but he's not turning right. He's just trying to stay in a spot that's going to keep him safe, or he's on the inside lane. He's got a ton of space to the right. It can be confusing to somebody who doesn't understand anything about motorcycles. I never really had too big of a problem with that, just because, you know, it's not that hard to just keep your head on a swivel when riding a car. But it is very easy to get distraction, or get distracted, because their distractions are everywhere. And you see it so much when you're on a bike. It's so easy to see people who are on their phones. It's a whole different feeling to transportation. I want to get a sport bike and put a knee down so bad. I've like moved on wanting to wheelie or stunt or, you know, go really fast. What I've wanted to do so much is fucking get a knee down at a track. Part of the reason why I want the Aprilia RS660. Really good bike for what I'm doing right now, just riding around back road twisties, and you can just take it to a track day, it's ready to go right away. can mess with the settings, take off all the assists, get it set up perfectly for the track. That's ideal. Did I just have my blinker on for 10 minutes? I hope not. That can be deadly as well. If someone thinks you're going to turn because you forgot your blinker and they expect you to turn and then you don't and they turn. So like if I had my right blinker on and someone's coming up to the intersection the opposite of me, they think I'm turning right, they're going to expect me to slow down and take the turn so they can initiate the turn early, because in their head I'm taking a turn because my signal is on. So I'll be into the turn when they're initiating theirs. If you don't do that, you never slow down, but you got your blinker on, you go through, they initiate the turn like you're going to initiate a turn, and then they'll just fucking hit you. And at that point, you can't really blame the other person, even though they probably shouldn't turn in early. You should wait to see for sure if someone's going to turn before you turn, but that's not normal. That's not what happens most of the time. Usually if someone sees a signal, they're going to take that signal for what it is, because that's what it's there for. So you got to remember to turn the signal off. I might even upgrade to a like automatic signal thing. I don't know what they're called, but there's something you can get where it'll automatically turn off the signal when you turn, like in a car. And I need that, because I always forget. But yeah, the plan was to film some content at the bachelor party, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel like filming a bunch of people that didn't want to be in a video, to be honest. It's always weird trying to vlog around people. I've never really done it too much, because it's like when I used to do IRL streams around people, I always felt like I was impeding on their privacy. It's just not the vibe. It can be if everybody's content creators and they're into that kind of thing, or they follow this type of world, then it could be fun, but that's very rare. See, turns like this are dangerous. Normally, if this was a turn I didn't know, I'd probably go pretty fast through there. But there's been a few times where someone pulled up and they immediately turned into that side street, because it's like a connector right on the blind turn. So they can't see at all, and they just flow right into it without stopping. So if I was flying by on my motorcycle, I would be fucked. It would not work out pretty well for me. So that's where being familiar with the streets around you really pays off. Look at that, we're at 1,100 miles. We're working this thing. Goddamn birds kamikazing themselves. Good thing I didn't hit them that time. Man, it feels good to be back on the bike. There's absolutely nothing like it. I think being on a bike is one of like the top 5 most fun things that anybody can do. I really do, because it's one of the only things where I don't need anything else. You can just get on a bike and have fun. And I'm incredibly ADHD. I'm always doing 5 different things at once. Sometimes I watch 2 YouTube videos at one time. just because I need constant dopamine. What was that noise? Sounded like a bee. It was a weird sound. But yeah, like I said, I need constant dopamine. I'm always getting hit with something. You know what I mean? I need to have a video, a song, Twitch stream, while I'm playing a game. Like sometimes I just need to give my brain a rest, you know? When you get on a motorcycle, it is very intense and you gotta stay focused. It also is relaxing in a weird way. Kind of reminds me when you work really hard at something and you don't particularly love the work, but you love the outcome of the work. It's like that, but you love the work. And riding a motorcycle I wouldn't call work, but it takes a certain level of focus and attention, and it is incredibly gratifying in the moment, which probably feeds into the dopamine thing, right? You gotta do is twist and you feel a release. I think there's a bug in my helmet. Oh fuck, there is. Well, I hope that never happens again. Man, alright, that's gonna be it for us, guys. Holy shit, bro. Peace.